Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. And today's video is going to be a bit off the cuff, but for now, just know that this art piece, as well as the video I have planned, is definitely something that has come from the heart, and more specifically, I feel has come from God. I feel as though I felt convicted to work on this art piece as well as speak on what I'm about to say now. So I do ask that you all just have a bit of patience and sit with me through this video. What has been on my mind, especially for the past few days, is the rapid development of art that has taken place in the Christian community as well as other biblical communities like the Hebrew Israelites and other way followers. Essentially, there has been a rampant uptick of these individuals using AI art, artificial intelligence, to generate images for them. And I just want to ask, where were all these people before? That's just a general question. Where was this desire and this seeking for art for videos and animations before AI was a thing? Because there have been many artists, many creatives who have wanted to create art to serve that higher purpose of being for God, but for whatever reason, no one has ever reached out to artists. It's very sad because we do have individuals like myself who are very much in faith. I read my Bible, I read my Apocrypha and Dead Sea Scrolls from time to time. I do a lot of independent study, independent research and prayer. And yet, individuals will quickly go and use Mid-Journey or ChatGPT or other AI programs to make their art when there is a spirit behind these things. And I would like to take it back real quick, but I did do some research on this. This was for a college assignment, but essentially, I do believe it starts around the 90s. That was when the Satanic Panic was a big thing, where different religious groups and organizations, especially those TV ministers and TV pastors, they went ham and they really attacked TV shows, cartoons, movies, calling pretty much everything satanic and demonic. And the Bible does, in fact, warn about things having certain spirits. The Bible often says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. So, yes, there is a spirit behind things. Yes, yes, there is a spirit behind things. Yes, there are certain things that are just straight up evil, and we should try to avoid or not get involved with. But in that same vein, you can call on God to guide you in your art. You can call on God to guide you in your creativity. And there has been artists and creatives in the Bible. Exodus chapter 35 and 36 literally talks about Bezalel and Aholiab. Bezalel, who was the son of Uri, who was of the tribe of Judah, and Aholiab, who was the son of Ahisamach, who was of the tribe of Dan. These were two creative men who were blessed with the spirit of creativity by God, and they were taught to work with metals, work with linens, work with wood. Those were the two men, as well as other wise men. God filled his creative spirit in many wise men and many other people in order to create the Ark of the Covenant. There are people who worked with textiles. There are people who worked in creating jewelry. The tribes of Israel were very creative people. And so there is this love and appreciation for art because it goes back to the Bible and using the creativity that God has gifted and blessed us with in order to further glorify Him and to further show His capabilities and His magnificence. That is what art is for. That is what creativity is for. But Christians have spent so much time demonizing art, calling everything satanic, calling everything demonic. And I'm not ignoring what has happened. Okay, just objectively speaking, yes, Hollywood is horrible. So much stuff is coming out about artists and music makers, and there have been long stories and long histories of people performing witchcraft over music and people performing witchcraft over movies and people getting involved with rituals in order to get that fame and get that higher attention. I believe there was this one actress. She was actually called on by God. God told her, like, hey, don't take this movie deal. Hey, take a break from movies for a while and just focus on me. And whatever God calls you to do, go ahead and do it. But we cannot ignore the beauty of the skills that God has gifted us with. God is great. God is amazing. He is the creator of all. And He has purview and control over anything and everything that happens. In that same vein, the mere ability to draw, to tell a story, to craft and make things is not demonic. Because if it were, God would not give us the ability to perform such things. I genuinely believe that yes, we do have free will, but if the mere action of creation were a sin, then we would not have the ability to create. We would not have the ability to be creative, tell stories, so on and so forth. And not even just artistry in its general sense of being a painter or drawing things, but everything can be further explained or further given credence as art. The simple action of making a house, designing a house, that is artistry in and of itself. Adam and Eve, they made clothes for themselves. That's artistry. The creation of the pyramids is artistry. Everything that you can think of has some form of artistry or design to it. There is this love and there is this appreciation of aesthetic among people, so we cannot ignore that. And it's not idolatry, it's just generally how we see and view the world. Even God Himself, He had the perfect idea of what man and woman should look like. He had a perfect idea of how He wanted to create the world. That's why He took His time. If God wanted to, He could have just snapped His fingers and made the world all at once in one day. But no, He took His time. He took 7 days. Well, technically He took 6 days and then He used the 7th day to rest. But you know what I mean. There is a care and love that comes with the creation that God has endowed in ourselves. So then, why do we take the spirit out of that creativity? Why do we take the spirit out of that want and desire and love for storytelling, for artistry, for creative depictions? It's generally horrible. And it's generally sad because creativity is something that God has blessed us with, and we cannot ignore it any longer. Because right now we are in a state and we are in a time where nothing is engaging anymore. Nothing is meaningful. Nothing really pulls on your heartstrings or carries a long lasting message. A lot of people nowadays, they just watch something to watch it or indulge in something to pass the time. But as far as a show or a movie or something really engaging that keeps you engaged, that keeps your heart, that keeps your soul tugged at, and keeps you reeling for more, there's not really much of that anymore. There's like this automation of creativity, or at least this attempted automation of creativity. Companies using AI for AI animations, the artist strike that's going on, the animator strike that's going on. I mean, honestly, even the Hebrew Israelites, like, I'm going to be honest, I love the truth that they spread. I love the knowledge that they drop. They're able to read the scripture in certain ways and expose certain things, but they need to just work on their design. Like, for starters, their merchandise looks horrible. A lot of the times they use AI to make thumbnails or make graphics for their videos, which just looks terrible. The heads are bulbous. There's no competency in shading. I remember seeing this one video about a Hebrew Israelite fashion show, and it was like trying to be this blend of Afrofuturism, and it just looked nasty. It just looked disgusting. It's like they have so much faith, which it's good to have faith, but they just don't have the spirit of creativity. I just got to be honest with it. Like, they're down with truth, they're not down with creativity, and that's really sad. That's really terrible. And even as far as the Christians, like the Hebrew Israelites, they just need to work on their design. Christians, they need to work on their creativity in general. So many people who are biblical, so many groups who have shied away from artistry as an art form, even though God is a God of creation. And it's really sad. There just needs to be a revival of creativity. We need more graphic designers. We need more artists. We need more people in textiles in the faith to say, hey, no, that's a terrible idea. Or that looks disgusting. Or that looks terrible. Don't leave the house wearing that. Like, it's generally, there's really nothing else I can say other than a lot of the stuff that many Christians and other believers and followers are putting out just looks terrible and horrible and disgusting. Like, how are you, like, and here's the thing with that. Yes, it is about the message. Yes, it is about the truth. I don't say this to try and sugarcoat the truth or try to package the truth as being pleasing for all ears, because that's the thing about the truth is going to be horrible. The truth is going to be just that. The the truth, what is righteous, what is needed, what is a fact and law of this world. But just because you have the truth doesn't mean that the truth has to look like shit. Okay, I'm just being honest. I'm just being real with you. Like, just because you have the truth does not mean that you should be wearing shoulder pads even though shoulder pads went out of style in the 80s, and for good reason. You should not be having cloth shoulder pads in your robes. You should not be wearing these giant turbans like the Turks and like the Arabs do, because they need big turbans because they're somewhat pale, and they have them that big to shield their skin from the sun, their face and their chest and their lower body from the sun. That's why they have big turbans. But no, you're black, you don't need a big turban. Or there's more, or for the Christians, there's more than one way to depict and revere God. Like, you don't need to have a one-to-one recreation of the Genesis story or the Exodus story of even though, yes, Prince of Egypt is an amazing movie. It has beautiful artistry, like the cinematography, the graphics, the artistic detail that was present in The Prince of Egypt is just wonderful. Beautiful blending of CGI and 2D animation and 3D and 2D animation on 3D sets and 3D settings. But not every Christian story needs to be a one-to-one recreation of a story from the Bible. Okay? Like, look at Lord of the Rings. Look at Narnia. Both stories that are heavily inspired by Christianity, and they tell perfect, beautiful stories of masculinity, of femininity, of having faith in the midst of darkness, of being righteous, of being good, decent human beings and carrying faith and showing submission to higher powers. But just because they call angels elves or have this magical other world, but they don't call it heaven, they call it like the world on the other side of the Western Sea or whatever the heck they call it. Like, just because they don't use specific terms from the Bible, that does not mean that it's satanic. And just because there is a show or there is a fantasy piece that has evil in it does not mean that the whole entire story, that the whole entire world is demonic. It just has a force of evil, but it also has good triumphing over that evil. And even to a lesser extent, Genshin Impact, that's very biblical in its coding. Like, it has a lot of, I want to say, Christian aspects to it, of like, it does have multiple gods, but those are more so like angels instead of gods. And even the Bible goes over how God has set apart angels and lesser powers and principalities to sort of be these lesser gods over smaller portions of humanity. But Yahweh, God, the Lord of Spirits, he is the major prime person in charge. He just has lesser spirits and lesser angels appointed to certain things. And that's really good, because actually the book of Enoch does go more in depth with that, of how God has set apart certain responsibilities and certain lesser spirits to be in charge of things like the rain, like storms, like the winds, the setting and lowering of the sun and moon, like everything like that. But that's a discussion for a later day. My whole thing is that art is beautiful, and art comes from God first and foremost, but it is man who twists and corrupts it. You have to keep God first, and we have to bring art back into remembrance. We have to bring the function, the desire, the practice of art and artistry back into the forefront, because it's just been so long. Like, I'm a young man, I'm 24 years old. God has blessed me with my artistic ability. I'm trying to make my own show that is heavily inspired by the Bible. Like, I can make a recreation of Leviticus, or I can make a recreation of one of the apocryphal books sometime in the future. But I want to make my own show my show, The Seven Sages, as a sort of way and testament to show people that yes, you can glorify God using his book, using his principalities, using everything that he has shown and taught us in his text. And it doesn't have to be a one-to-one recreation, because God is more than his book. If you believe in a living, breathing God, then you have to believe that he is more than his book, and he is not bound by just a book, but he is living. He is a spirit that lives within you. He is all around you. He is everything in between, the Alpha and Omega. So don't try to limit him to just one book, because he is powerful. He is king. He is Lord of this world. He is the beginning and the end. He has the power. He should not be limited to just one thing or one view. That's my personal belief. And so as an artist, I have done my all to present him as such. But that is the path that God has set apart for me. And that is my own journey. I just felt conviction in my heart and soul to share this with you all. But at the end of the day, to each their own. All you can really do is just pray for discernment and ask God to guide you. Anyway, I do hope you all enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share even. This has been Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art, and I'll see you guys in my next video or live stream. Bye.